Whispers of the River. The small town of Evermere was known for its gentle river that wound through cobblestone streets, carrying with it the whispers of time. On summer evenings, lanterns reflected on the water like scattered stars, and the townsfolk believed the river had a way of preserving memories, of love, of longing, of promises both kept and broken. Amelia grew up listening to those stories. She was a painter, often seen sitting on the wooden bridge, sketching the changing moods of the river. To her, Evermere was not just a town but a canvas where she poured her heart. Though she had friends, she often felt a quiet emptiness, as if something, or someone, was missing from her life. One evening, as the town prepared for the annual Lantern Festival, Amelia noticed a stranger by the river. He was tall, with dark hair and an expression that carried both curiosity and sorrow. He was sketching too, though not the water, he was drawing people. Children chasing fireflies, couples laughing, an old man playing the violin. His eyes moved with an attentiveness Amelia had rarely seen. Their gazes met, and something in her chest stirred. "You draw too," he said softly, approaching with a shy smile. "Yes," Amelia replied, surprised by how natural it felt to speak to him. "But the river is my favorite subject. It feels alive." The stranger nodded. "I'm Daniel. I used to live here years ago. I left, but I suppose some places call you back." Over the following days, Amelia and Daniel spent more time together. He told her he was an architect who had traveled across cities, designing buildings that touched the sky, yet he had never felt at home anywhere. She showed him the hidden corners of Evermere, the bakery that smelled of cinnamon, the abandoned chapel where wildflowers grew through cracked stone, the hill where sunsets painted the world in gold. Their bond grew in the quiet moments, when Daniel carried her paints because the box was too heavy, when Amelia fixed the button on his shirt that always seemed loose, when they laughed under the rain, soaked but unbothered. But Daniel carried a heaviness in his heart. One night, sitting by the river, he confessed, "I left Evermere because I thought I could escape the memories. I was engaged once, but she passed away before we could marry. For years, I blamed myself for dreaming of a future that never came." His voice cracked like fragile glass. Amelia reached for his hand. "Daniel, grief doesn't mean you stop living. Sometimes the river carries away what we can't hold, and brings us something new. Maybe you came back not to escape your past, but to find where you belong." Tears shimmered in his eyes, but for the first time, he smiled without weight. When the Lantern Festival arrived, townsfolk gathered by the river. Each person released a lantern carrying a wish. Amelia and Daniel stood side by side. "What will you wish for?" she asked. Daniel looked at her, then at the glowing river. "Not for something, but for someone. For the courage to love again." Amelia's breath caught as she released her lantern. Her own wish was simple, that Daniel would stay. As hundreds of lanterns rose into the night, their hands found each other's. The river reflected their joined silhouettes, carrying the moment into its endless story. Daniel never left again. He rebuilt an old house by the water, turning it into both a studio and a home. Amelia's paintings filled the walls, while Daniel's sketches lined the windows. Together, they created a life woven with art, laughter, and quiet strength. And whenever the townsfolk spoke of the river's whispers, they would smile at the story of the painter and the architect, two souls who found each other where the water carried away sorrow and returned love in its place. Whispers of the Ocean. The sea had always been a part of Elena's life. Growing up in a small coastal town, she often spent her evenings walking along the beach, watching the waves crash gently against the shore. The ocean was her comfort, her companion, and her secret keeper. One summer evening, as the sky turned shades of gold and crimson, she noticed someone sitting alone on the rocks near the lighthouse. He was sketching in a notebook, his dark hair ruffled by the sea breeze. Curiosity drew her closer. "Beautiful sunset, isn't it?" Elena asked softly. The young man looked up, his eyes the color of the stormy sea. He smiled. Yes. But it seems even more beautiful now. That was how she met Daniel, an artist who had come to town searching for inspiration. He told her he was traveling from place to place, capturing the essence of landscapes in his drawings. Something about his gentle voice and thoughtful words made Elena feel as if she had known him forever. Days turned into weeks. They began meeting by the lighthouse every evening, sometimes talking, sometimes sitting in silence, listening to the waves. Daniel sketched while Elena shared stories of her childhood, her dreams, and her longing to one day leave the town to explore the world beyond the horizon. One night, under the silver glow of the moon, Daniel showed her his sketchbook. Among pages filled with seas and skies, there was one drawing of her, standing by the shore, the wind in her hair, her eyes full of light. "You've been my inspiration all along," he admitted. Elena's heart trembled. She realized that in Daniel's presence, the ocean no longer felt lonely. It was alive, singing, whispering of new beginnings. But as summer faded, so did the time they had left. Daniel confessed that he couldn't stay, his journey wasn't over yet. The thought of him leaving tore at Elena's heart. On his last night in town, they stood together at the water's edge. "Promise me," Daniel whispered, "that no matter where life takes you, you'll follow your dreams. And if the ocean ever calls you, maybe it will bring us together again." With tears in her eyes, Elena nodded. She kissed him beneath the stars, their hearts beating in rhythm with the waves. Years passed. Elena left her small town, traveling across countries, chasing dreams she had once only spoken about on moonlit nights. But no matter where she went, the sea always reminded her of him. One spring evening, standing at a pier in another country, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Still chasing the horizon?" She turned, and there he was, Daniel, sketchbook in hand, the same stormy sea eyes but now filled with something deeper, stronger. Elena smiled through her tears. "I think I've finally found it." The ocean roared behind them, as if rejoicing. And this time, they knew neither tides nor distance would pull them apart again. Whispers of the autumn sky. The small town of Everdale was tucked between rolling hills and golden fields, where every autumn painted the streets in shades of amber and rust. It was here that Evelyn Carter returned after years of living in the bustling city, carrying with her the quiet weight of broken dreams and unanswered letters. Evelyn had once dreamed of becoming a writer. But after a series of rejections and a failed relationship that left her heart bruised, she found herself seeking solace in her hometown. She rented a small cottage near the edge of town, its garden untamed but beautiful, and she told herself that she had come back only for peace, never for love. But fate often lingers in unexpected places. One evening, as she sat on the porch with a notebook resting on her lap, she saw a familiar figure walking down the narrow lane. Tall, broad-shouldered, and moving with the quiet confidence of someone who belonged to the land, it was Noah Bennett. The boy who had once been her best friend, and the man she had never quite forgotten. Noah had stayed in Everdale after high school, taking over his family's farm. His life was simple but honest, filled with the rhythm of seasons and the warmth of community. He had heard that Evelyn was back, but seeing her in person, her auburn hair catching the last light of the day, her eyes carrying both sorrow and fire, was something entirely different. "Evelyn Carter," he said with a smile that reached his eyes. "Back where you belong." She laughed softly, though her heart raced. "I'm not sure I belong anywhere anymore." Their conversations began casually, at the farmer's market, by the riverbank, in the little cafe downtown. Yet beneath the small talk, there was a current neither of them could ignore. He noticed how her laughter sometimes faded into silence, how she stared at the horizon as if searching for answers. She noticed how his hands, rough from work, were gentle when he handed her a cup of coffee, how his eyes held both steadiness and unspoken longing. As the weeks passed, autumn deepened. Evelyn found herself writing again, but this time not about imagined worlds or distant cities. She wrote about Everdale, about the warmth of home, about a man who had stayed when she had left. Noah became her muse without even knowing it. One night, the town held its annual harvest festival. Lanterns glowed above the square, music drifted through the air, and couples danced under the stars. Evelyn stood on the edge of the crowd, watching, until Noah walked up and offered his hand. "Dance with me," he said simply. She hesitated. "I don't remember the steps." "Then let me lead." And so she let him. In the swirl of music and laughter, with the cool night air brushing against her cheeks, Evelyn felt something she had not felt in years: belonging. When the song ended, Noah didn't let go of her hand. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to keep running, Evelyn. Not from this town. Not from me." Her breath caught, the world narrowing to the space between them. She wanted to answer, but all she could do was look into his eyes, where the boy she had known and the man he had become existed at once. The first kiss was hesitant, almost fragile, as if they were afraid it would shatter the fragile spell between them. But when his arms wrapped around her, Evelyn realized something she had always known deep down: her heart had never really left Everdale. The weeks that followed were filled with quiet joys. Early mornings on the farm, evenings spent writing by the fire while Noah read beside her, laughter that echoed through the hills. Her stories began to flow again, not from a place of pain, but from love. Publishers noticed, and soon her words were reaching readers everywhere. But for Evelyn, success was no longer about escape, it was about sharing the beauty she had found here, with him. Winter arrived, and with it, a new chapter. One snowy evening, as they stood beneath the stars, Noah took her hands in his and said, "Evelyn, you left once to chase a dream. But maybe the dream was always here, waiting for you." Tears warmed her eyes as she whispered, "And maybe it was always you." In that moment, as snowflakes drifted around them and the quiet town slept, Evelyn knew that love had not only healed her, it had brought her home.